community is really beautiful when everyone's voice is allowed to have a place.
And I think what we are trying to do with our mission here is to say, you need to own every step. Every step matters.
One of our core values of respect in talking about that, we hold space for that here. We want to know people's story because it not only is helpful for us to give voice to our stories and be able to put a name to them and be able to share them, but it's also about encouraging that not all stories have to look alike. They don't need to sound alike, but there's great respect for the fact that you have lived and breathed on this earth.
Very lovely YETI you have there.
I mean, this lovely sandstone pink YETI.
The power of the YETI.
The power of the YETI.
Yes, stay tuned for that episode because
soon.
It is very powerful.
Welcome to the Success Resequencing Project. I'm Debbie Ponticus.
And I'm Jenn Newman.
Join us as we challenge the traditional definitions of success so you can build a fulfilling path of your own.
Get ready for inspired, candid conversations while gaining tools, inspiration, and confidence to create your own authentic success story.
Hi, friend.
Hello, friend.
You know, I'm really happy that today we actually get to just sit, you and I, and just chat. We've had so many offline conversations that we really wanted to just sit and do right here.
I know. Well, and this is, in my mind, like what I've been looking forward to is I think the whole reason we are where we are today is because of the conversations that you and I just have together. Like,
if people could only be a fly on the wall.
Right.
So I think this is that moment, right? It's just this ability to sit and banter back and forth.
Yeah.
I think what's really interesting is that you and I have so many similarities. As we said earlier to a guest who was here prior, it's like we're like Siamese twins in many ways. But then our approach to things, there is this nuance that you and I have both learned from each other that I think is really compelling.
Yeah.
Because we can talk about a topic all day long and you and I we're on the same page the entire time, but we have an ability to offer that perspective to one another that's just enough different that always causes us to take something to the next level and say, you know what, I hadn't thought of that.
Yep.
It's a really interesting way of looking at it. Okay, let me stop in my tracks for a minute and digest that. And apply it.
Totally. And what really I think is interesting is if you listen to your episode where I'm interviewing you and then one where you interview me, you can see that everything we say about why we're here today is that your path is your own. Like you can get to the same end point, but have a completely different path.
Totally.
It is absolutely true with you and I because we have reached the same end point here. But the way we got there, and I think that the way we grew up and what we kind of experienced and how that helped frame who we are today is why you and I have such different perspectives on things. A lot of them very the same. Like I don't want it to seem like we're completely different on everything, but the way we come and approach things is from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that was really telling when you listen to the two episodes of us and how we got to where we are today.
For sure.
So,
and I think what's cool about that, at least from my vantage point, is that because I've had a path that has been anything but linear, and it has been woven with there have been some significant moments that I could have very easily chosen to look at as failure and could really stay in that energy, go into a victim mentality. There's something that I really appreciate, and I could feel the need to apologize for that. And you have had a different path where we've said behind closed doors, like, no one should apologize for their experience, good, bad, or otherwise.
Right.
That experience is unique, and what we do with it is what matters.
Right.
And I think that's an important thing to state, because sometimes people feel that the only ones that have really experienced life are ones that have gone through something really traumatic, right? Or like, oh, maybe I'm not as X because I didn't go through this, or I didn't have an abusive childhood, or I didn't have major trauma. And anyone who listens, that's, I think, something you and I are really keen on making sure that we create space for, is that all stories, we hold respect for all stories.
Yeah.
And in everyone, there is a lesson and a perspective that is unique to them, regardless of how they got there.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because in our conversations and in our interviews with guests, something that I've been going through, which is, I think, a natural thing, is like, I'm like, okay, when you hear my story, when I know my story, I haven't been through childhood trauma. I have not had divorced parents. I have not had this. And in retrospect, I say, gosh, my life on surface could seem very perfect, right? Well, then what can you bring to the table? Is the self-doubt I put into my own head of how can I motivate and move people because I haven't had anything traumatic, knock on wood, in my life. I mean, there have been traumas in my life. There have been traumas all around, or things that are stressful, but again, I think that's something that I've been putting in my head, is like, okay, but what can I offer? And that I still have a story to tell.
Always.
And my path, while to others may seem like it was an easy road, it wasn't.
No, because you're human.
Yeah.
I think that's that piece, that differentiator that we forget sometimes. I also know, in retrospect, and as I reflect on my own experience, I also don't want to be branded as someone who's had a really tough road.
Right.
Because I'm able to see in my everyday life the bounty of blessings that I have. And if you meet me, I can only hope that that's what I exude, not this backpack of bricks that's like all the things that I went through. I don't ever want to make it about that.
Right. Well, I can tell you don't. And in fact, my husband, Ari, after he listened to your episode, he texted me. He was like, I am literally in tears over Jen's story, because I had no idea. He was said, I would have never thought that was the road that she had to take to get to where she is. Because you just come across so powerful and so have conquered the world, right? So it's an interesting thing to just see how people take you for what you are in the moment they meet you. And whether that's casting judgment, whether that's showing appreciation, whatever the feeling is, it's at a point in time.
That's right.
And I think what we are trying to do with our mission here is to say, you need to own every step. The quest, every step matters. And that's every important step, every hard step, every failed step, every achievement is what makes that impression at that point in time.
That's exactly right. And we were saying with one of our guests after we wrapped their episode, we were talking about how you can see the glory, but you don't know the story. And we have to be mindful of that all the time.
Yeah.
What we see, we do not know what's behind that when we make those judgments. And I've been humbled by that so many times, where I have thought someone had it all together, or why did I go through all this and they didn't? And then something will happen over time, and I realize that no one is spared from humanness. None of us are spared from that. We all experience it in a myriad of ways. And so not to put someone on a pedestal because they have been through a lot, and also not put someone on a pedestal because they haven't.
Right.
It's about finding that inner humanity, that connectedness. We're all able to, we can all talk about what it's like to be human.
Yeah.
Right?
I think
we have that in common, right?
And I think absolutely. And I think what the beautiful thing about this relationship that you and I have, and what we're trying to do, is realize that life experiences truly are 360. And I am not fulfilled to my fullest if I'm not taking into account the experience of those around me. And when I shut down and only focus on my experiences and perceptions, it's like a black and white picture, right?
Right.
But if you then take the time to listen and ask questions, which my husband always makes fun of me for. He's like, by the time we're done with dinner, you always know someone's social security number, their blood type, their this, their that. And I'm like, well, I'm just curious.
Because you're curious. You have deep curiosity.
I am. And it's like, well, what else are we going to talk about? And I feel like people like to talk about themselves. So why not ask questions? Like, that's part of their journey. That's why they got there. Like, why would you not want to know?
Right. Which is where I think one of our core values of respect, in talking about that, we hold space for that here. We want to know people's story because it not only is helpful for us to give voice to our stories and be able to put a name to them and be able to share them, but it's also about encouraging that not all stories have to look alike. They don't need to sound alike, but there's great respect for the fact that you have lived and breathed on this earth. If we approached every person we meet with that fundamental respect, who you are matters simply because you're here.
Yeah.
Can you even imagine what our world would be like today? I mean, we're in such a time of divisiveness, and it's like because we've lost that connectedness of I'm human and you're human. That's enough.
Right.
That's worth respecting right there.
And it's okay to have different opinions.
Yes.
I mean, how boring would this world be if we all shared the same opinion?
Correct.
The challenge is that it's hard for humans to be open to understanding that just because someone is different than you or has a different opinion than you, that they shouldn't be judged for that, because you wouldn't want to be judged for that.
Exactly.
All you want to do is like, this is my belief.
Yeah.
And it's okay if you don't agree.
Right. And we've talked about this a lot. We've talked about this under many different topics and how it affects different aspects of our life. And I think that if there was anything that I could do on a day-to-day basis to kind of beat that drum over and over again, is to say that in order for us, we live in a country where all are created, we believe all are created equal, right? That's like one of our founding principles. And if we can honor the fact that that means, to your point, whatever it is that we may disagree about or have differing opinions, views, whatever, I mean, we can run the gamut of what that means, that we all have a right, because what do we believe in voice? If it's in you, it's yours to say. Right. If we can hold the respect for that, that's what real equality is. Right. It means space for all. Yeah. And that's hard because we get very territorial about what we believe. Yeah. I love the idea that our beliefs are actually opening. They're about helping people understand context of who we are and what we're about, and recognizing that those beliefs come from a place, an inner place that's about how we're expressing ourselves in the world. Right. So to look at someone and point and say, that's not okay, or you're not good because. Right. That's a piece that, man, I really wish we could. That's a submission in my world, right? It's about debunking on our show and in our business. It's about debunking this concept around success, right, and what that means, and it's supposed to mean a certain thing. Cool, right? But it's also about holding space for everyone, because there's so much to learn. Yeah, well, and that's what we say. I mean, your path is your own. Yes, your path is your own. That is a very difficult thing, I think, for our society to unravel, because we get so wrapped up with whatever's on social media, comparing ourselves to others. By the way, that's a very lovely YETI you have there. You mean this lovely sandstone pink YETI? Yes, for our listeners, you can't see this, but if you're watching us on YouTube, we're very proud of our merch. I know I'm taking us on a tangent here. I think this is actually an important tangent. Yes. I think this is our commercial break, actually. Yes, we're like, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to introduce the 20-ounce Rambler by YETI. Yes, thank you very much. And yes, we have our branded YETIs that we're very proud of. Yes. And frankly, that could be its own episode on why YETIs matter to us. YETI, the power of the YETI. The power of the Yeti.
Yes, stay tuned for that episode
Coming
because it is
soon.
very powerful. Yes. So anyway, apologize.
Back
from commercial break.
Yes, we're back.
Sponsored by Yeti. So, you know, it truly is hard in today's world and society when it's all about comparing, to really take a moment to step back.
Yep.
Turn it off. Turn off the noise. Listen to yourself. Listen to that voice. And peel back all of these layers that have been put on you year after year of do it this way, look at that person, you should be like that person. All of these things that are told to us as well as things that we put upon ourselves.
Yes.
And to have the courage to be like, okay, I'm good enough. I'm good enough.
Just as you are.
Right. And that's where we got so passionate about this mission and why we're doing this is because we saw too many people when we were doing our coaching and just in our conversations and just in life experiences that were really getting lost and really trying to be someone that they are not and that they should never be.
Correct. And there's also this concept. We have to be really careful with groupthink and group consciousness because when we're trying to kind of, wrangle everybody into our opinions, into our belief system, that does not take into account what people are going through behind the scenes.
Yeah.
None of us like stereotypes.
Right.
None of us do.
No.
We have talked about the stereotypes of working moms. We've talked about, my God, you and I have talked about probably everything there is to talk about.
Yeah.
But when it comes to this notion of your path is your own, it also comes with a caveat. That means you're allowed to have a different point of view. And that doesn't mean that you don't belong.
Right.
And I think in the sense of people really craving community, there's an idea. I remember this moment vividly. It was a few years ago. I was asked by someone who was in my life at the time to participate in like a community Zoom. And the concept was about community. And what it really came down to was it became a conversation about discipleship. And I don't mean that in a religious context. Right. I mean, you're in our community. Community was defined more in terms of discipleship from you better fall in line. And this is what we think. And the person leading that conversation was stating that if you don't think that way, it's okay to cut people out of your life.
Right.
And I spoke up and said, what I'm hearing is not community. What I'm hearing is discipleship. I'm hearing a very cult-like dynamic, which is everybody has to think exactly the same. And I'll be straightforward. I was canceled from that person after that. It was like they were done because I spoke a different point of view. And it wasn't coming from a place of trying to be disrespectful. What it was saying, actually, community is really beautiful when everyone's voice is allowed to have a place.
Right.
When everyone's energy, when everyone's dynamic is honored. And that is something that I hope we can continue even in the most early stages of what we've created. That's always been at the forefront.
Yeah.
Is that all are welcome.
Yeah.
And we understand that not everybody's going to align with that. And we understand not everybody wants to participate. That's personal choice.
Yeah.
But to set a standard that says you're only allowed if, that's conditional. And that's not something that you and I believe in.
No.
We don't believe in that in business. We don't believe that in family life. We don't believe that in our own experiences. You and I really don't appreciate that. We want people to be seen for who they are and accepted for that.
And have healthy debate and have healthy conversations, because you can learn so much from others, even if you disagree. It's like
so
take
much.
some time to learn why they think differently than you. And maybe you'll learn something. Doesn't mean that you'll have to change, but maybe you'll have a different compassion or respect for those who have a different belief system.
Yeah.
For whatever that is.
There's a humanness in all of us. So if we vilify that difference, now we're actually vilifying that portion of humanity that I think it exists in all of us. So if you're doing it to someone else, it's likely happening to you.
Yeah.
And we just want that to stop.
Yeah. So I think today, what I love about what we're doing and the guests that we're having on our show, what we're trying to do is we're not making it about what they are at today, at the point in time that we interview them. What we're doing is we're giving them a platform to use their voice and tell the story and tell the journey and tell everyone about the fact that you may see me as this today, but listen to how I got there.
Yeah.
And know that there were struggles along the way. There were good times, there were bad times. And every guest so far has had a very similar background in a sense of no one was linear.
No one was
linear.
And no one did it perfectly.
No. And thank goodness.
Right?
Because when do you learn from, I don't think you learn from perfection. You learn from the imperfections that help you grow. And maybe you're aspiring to some sort of perfection. But once you're there, where's the fun in that?
That's also been a theme. Most of the people that I would say all who we've interviewed so far have all said that when everything was going great, they knew it was time for a change. That's a clue.
Yeah.
Right? Success leaves clues. That's a clue.
Right.
That it's, if you take the end point out of it, you never want to stop growing.
Right. That's true.
And we know we don't.
No.
And we know that means...
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
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 To the Yeti.
To the Yeti.
Yes. I love that we were going to talk about leading versus managing.
And we didn't get there. But
so,
we will
ladies
in
and
episode.
gentlemen, this is
Jenn and Debbie.
Jen.
Yep.
Right here. This is how we roll.
This is absolutely how we roll. We say, let's do this, and then go and go down a different path.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so not only is success not linear, neither is our podcast. Okay.
Amen. So but I love it. This was a great episode.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for always bringing your true voice to the table because that's just, I've learned so much from that.
Yeah.
You know,
same to you.
We're both so wonderful. You heard it here first.
That's
you
right.
Heard it here first. Love it. Okay. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining us. If you loved this episode and know of someone who would find value in it, please spread the word and share it with a friend. We are passionate about redefining success, and it would mean the world if you could help us get our mission out to as many people as possible. Please take a minute to write a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. You can also hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Connect with us on Instagram at Success Resequencing Project or via our website at www.successresequencing.com. We'd love to hear your story.